On the frontispiece of the Codex Mendoza from the Viceroyalty of New Spain. So the location is New Spain. And the function of this piece is that was used to give information to the Spanish crown about the Aztec culture that had just been captured. And it's got political information, cultural information, and it describes the tribute system that the Aztecs used to keep control of their empire. The viceroyalty, do you see this big green circle here? That's the area called the Viceroyalty of Mexico. Down here was the Viceroyalty of Peru. And so there was a person in charge of each of the viceroyalties from Spain. And the person who this codex is named after is Mendoza, who was the first viceroyalty of Mexico. So he gets it named after him because he assigned it to be done. Context for this is that prior to the Spanish arrival in the Americas, there had been writing. The Aztecs, this is an Aztec piece here, this is a Mayan piece, and this writing was destroyed by the Spanish. They considered it idolatrous, meaning, anti-God, not Catholic, not Christian, and so they destroyed all of them. And it was easy for the Spanish to do this because the Aztec Empire had in the center of Tenochtitlan all of their writings contained in libraries. So easy to destroy, easy to burn. Form, this is the very first page of the Codex. And so it is considered the most elaborate page, which is why it is chosen in our set. And it is placed in a book. The Aztecs did not place these in books. They were like scrolls of bark. And so this is new. And then there is, in terms of form, what we call a scattered attribute. So you can see these images here of these 10 men, and then there's some other images here that we're going to talk about, but they're not on line. So this is not like lined writing that we read. And the composition of this codex, or what it contains in terms of content, is that it was 71 pages in length. It had 3 sections to it, this book did, this codex. One was about the history of the Aztec. One was a list of all the goods they had and the tribute they collected. And then the third section was about daily life. And I want to point out that here's a kid that was misbehaving, and he was held over a fire that had chili peppers in it. And so it had to breathe that. That was a punishment. More content is that there were, you can see here, names on for these 10 people. They were written in Nahuatl, which is the language of the Aztec Empire. And it was, and this is the frontispiece, it was translated into Spanish. So on the opposite page, the king could read a description here in Spanish of what was being described or drawn here on the frontispiece. More content is that on this frontispiece is the traditional story of the founding of Tenochtitlan, and it is a story that is honored by being on the Mexican flag. You can see the flag here, and this is a close-up of what they have on the flag, which is very similar here to what's on the Codex. And the story goes like this, is that when the Aztecs were searching for a place to set up their capital city, they had Huitzilopochtli, their god of war, their god of the sun, said that you're going to know where to set up the capital when you see an eagle perched on a prickly pear cactus. And so when they saw this, the founding origin story goes, that's where they knew they would settle and create Tenochtitlan. So this is that image replicating that story, and you can see it. The prickly pear is growing out of a stone, and then it is on top of a shield that has feathers going through it. And there's the name Tenochtitlan. More content is that you can see these blue lines crossing here and going around this. That is a replica or a metaphor for the city Tenochtitlan that was really a city that was made up of canals, called by the Europeans the Venice of the West. And it was also divided into 4 parts based on the 4 cardinal directions. And they show it here like all of these directions are crossing in the middle, and this is the axis mundi, or it is the center of the universe, and this is where the giver of life sent his command. So this is our Templo Mayor here, and so everything in the Aztec Empire and the world is centered from right there. Further content is that I mentioned there are 10 men shown here. These are considered the 10 founders of Tenochtitlan. Each of them has a symbol that's tied to them. Do you see this little black line tied to them that indicates who they are? And this one right here, Tenoch, has darker kind of ashen skin, and he has red on his ear signifying sacrifice, and he has a speech bubble in front of him. And he sits on a mat, unlike others who sit here on reeds. So this says he is a priest who should be listened to. He is the most important of the 10 people here. And then more content down in the bottom of this frontispiece, there is a description showing the Aztec warriors here conquering these people. So here is the conquering of Colhuancan, I didn't say that right, or Tenochtitlan right here. So the temple, you can see, is kind of got smoke coming out of it. It's the same symbol showing they blew up the temple. They conquered that city. They destroyed it. And these are images for each of those cities. And then Aztecs destroying these people. And then another thing to notice, or other things to notice, is that this is a symbol for Templo Mayor. This is the skull rack that we know about in Templo Mayor. And here is a war shield, again, that the eagle and the prickly pear cactus are resting on. And then finally, going around the outside of the frontispiece are these glyphs, which tell us the story of time. They're like calendars. So not like this calendar. This is an adjustment for this frontispiece. And there are 51 of these glyphs showing like 51 years. But what's to be noticed is that right here, this glyph, it says, hey, at that point, we reached one of our 52-year marks. And that was the completion of one of the suns, one of the 4 suns. And the Aztecs, remember, were in the 5th sun. And this shows this little glyph that's got I forgot what this is. This glyph, though, represents the idea that everybody in the Aztec world had to extinguish their fire, and new fire was created from the chest of a sacrificial victim. And that new fire that was created out of that victim was taken around the Tenochtitlan, and everybody would start their new fire with that fire that was brought around. And this just assured that the sun would rise again, because they've started a whole new 52-year system with a new sun. Okay, so it's another way of marking time. Right, that's the frontispiece of the Codex Mendoza.